What's up, guys? This week we are sitting down with Professor Felipe Neto at his school in Tallahassee, Florida. Professor Neto is a 6th degree Jiujitsu black belt and a founding member of the Alliance system under his coach, Jacare Cavalcante. I've known Professor Neto for a few years now. He invited me to come over there and train with his guys. I love cross-training, so I myself have been a student under Felipe Neto for the last couple of years and have had nothing but a positive experience and really improved my skill set. We get to sit down and learn about his journey in Jiu-Jitsu, starting out as a kid surfing on the beaches in Brazil, his journey to America, his starting a school in a area where there just really wasn't a lot of Jiu-Jitsu at that time. So we hope you'll join us and enjoy hearing the story of how Jiu-Jitsu really got started in the Tallahassee area. And we will get started in just a few minutes here. And thanks for sitting down with us under the cage. Everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Under the Cage. I'm your host, Sky Rudlow. We are here in Tallahassee today. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And I would like to welcome our guest for this week, Felipe Neto, Professor Felipe Neto. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you sitting down for this. So I'm going to go ahead and jump us off here. Just kind of tell us a little bit about where you started out, how you got started in martial arts, and where you work to where you are today, which, by the way, very decorated Jiu-Jitsu black belt, 5th degree now?
6th degree.
6th degree black belt. Okay, so very, very high level black belt. So yeah, just let's kind of walk us through the early days before, when you were starting out and all that good stuff.
All right. First, thank you for having me on the show. Okay, it's a pleasure. Good luck on this new project.
Thank you.
Very great that you're doing this. And I'm from Brazil, from Rio. Grew up in Rio on the Long Beach. Most of the people know, when talk about Rio, know about Copacabana Beach, Ipanema Beach, but nobody knows so much about Leblon, where I grew up. So I grew up on that part of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And when I started, I started as a kid. I was 7 to 8 years old. And yes, I started a little kid in a judo program close to my house. So my mom, my dad took me to take a judo at this place. And from all the way from 8 to 9, 10, I was doing judo. But then a freak accident happened. And my mom thought it wasn't a safe place for me to be at it. So she took me out. So
the Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, that's right. That wasn't judo, And after that happened, so I got really into another sport, was surfing. So Leblon Beach, as you can see on that picture right there that I have on the wall right there, I put my the picture where I was born. It's a very surfing culture, So that's a very surfing break spot. Got into that sport with my friends, and I stopped doing judo. And along with all that process in the learning, going to the beach every day, I saw a lot of a fight. That's when I really faced the real world. And I was just starting going to the beach by myself with my buddies. And that's when I really faced the reality, pretty much. So, and in Brazil, especially in the surfing, surfers, they are very territorial. The localism, local, territorial. So,
yeah.
And in Brazil, especially in South America's culture, we're very emotional, So it's very easy for a fight to break,
right.
For any reason, catching nave and everything. So I saw a lot of fights happening on the beach, So you cut my wave, this and that, a lot of fights. So, and then quick I realized that I had, oh my God, I have to, to protect myself, because I might be the next one. And as a matter of fact, it happened once, I got spanked pretty bad once.
Yeah, judo didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't because my judo didn't because I was a little, so I was
Yeah.
like into surf. I didn't know how to fight, As a matter of fact, that experience that I have as a judo wasn't enough to save my skin, especially when you get in a fight. When you are like, I was what, 13, 14, 13 years old, and the guy who hit me was a 17, 18. We talk about a huge difference.
Yeah, a lot of years, a lot of weight there.
Yeah, it was a big difference. So the guy, he thought I messed up his wave, and he came after me, put me by the leash, draw me, spank me. I remember it was summer. I got sunburn, so it was like, it was a big trauma for me. So after that, like, I have to learn, how to
Yeah.
to defend myself. And a friend of mine, Taylor Johnson, who was the one who brought me to jiu-jitsu. He was the one who started. I started taking. He took me to train at this place. So that was my first experience with jiu-jitsu. So and then I had another friend who was still doing at the same time. So another friend, who was also a surfer, and took me to train with Jacaré, in Panama Beach. Everything really before all the alliance.
Which Jacare is this?
Jacaré is my instructor, my professor. Is the guy that you see on my lineage,
Okay, so Cavalcante. Okay.
Yeah, Cavalcante. Jacaré is my instructor. So then I started one guy who was further from my house. And then soon later I moved to train with Jacaré in Ipanema Beach, who was close to Leblon Beach. Leblon Beach and Ipanema Beach share the same beach.
Okay.
So it's divided by a channel.
Okay. Cool. So, how long had you been training before you started moving into coaching, really, and teaching others? Were you already a black belt when that part started, or how long had you been training when you started doing that?
I mean, then once I started training jiu-jitsu, I never stopped, so I was really into, so I gave up on surfing. Actually, I was doing both, surfing and jiu-jitsu, but then I ended up doing more jiu-jitsu than surfing. And got into competition back in the 90s, late 80s and the 90s. The competition scene in Brazil, in Rio, was the mecca of jiu-jitsu, was pretty big. So we had like the Gracie Barra School, the Jacaré School, we had the Kyoto in the suburb, we had a few other schools in the South Zone, and they all used to compete against each other in local tournaments. We didn't have the confederation already, but to have a local tournaments, and I got into that participating, in competition and everything. So at first, as a blue belt, purple belt, I wasn't into teaching and everything. So my family pushed me to do law school, as a matter of fact. You know what I mean? So I had some law studies back in the day, but then I realized that I didn't want to be an attorney and a lawyer. So then I became an instructor afterwards. So I came to the United States. I lived in San Diego for 2 years. In San Diego for 1 year, and I live in Atlanta for 2 years, helping Jacaré build his school over there. And that's when I really turned, to be a jiu-jitsu instructor, helping him building his school when he migrated to Panama Beach to Atlanta, building his school. That's when I became, so I became an instructor, and then like, this is what I'm gonna do for a living. And I gave up, my legal study career, I ended up doing another college afterwards for exercise science. I also have a degree in physical education, exercise science, because I thought it was very important with the new career. I think they all come along together. If you have the science, next to the technical knowledge from your sport, I think adds a lot, Yeah. So I thought it was important for me. So I got back to college to pursue that degree in exercise science.
What year was all this going on in?
That was in 2000, 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you end up, of all places? Because especially with your credentials, you're very high level jujitsu instructor. Tallahassee is a small town, you know. With your credentials, you could have opened in New York, Los Angeles, anywhere. What made you choose Tallahassee? How'd you end up here?
Yeah. The thing with Tallahassee, I didn't choose Tallahassee. Tallahassee chose me.
Okay.
that's that's pretty much what happened, you know. So when I first heard about Tallahassee, to be honest with you, like most of the people, when it was told me that Tallahassee was a capital, I didn't even know that. You know, I thought it was
Yeah.
the state capital was Miami or Jacksonville, like most of the people think. And then when I heard about Tallahassee, and a friend of mine, as a matter of fact, Mauricio Vilado, this guy who was a friend of mine who had the school in West Palm Beach, was the one who told me about Tallahassee. I was back then. This was in 2006. I was living in Brazil. Like I said, just coming back right here. I live in San Diego from 95 to 96. I got back to Brazil for a short period of a year and a half, 2 years. Then Jacaré invited me to help building his school in Atlanta in 98. From 98 to 2000, I helped him build that school in Atlanta. I was one of his instructors,
Mhm.
you know. And even back then, 98 in Atlanta, who's now a huge, you know, city town with thousands of jiu-jitsu school, we were the first one. So I was pretty much the first, you know, I mean, black belt competitor. I was brown belt back then,
Right.
teaching jiu-jitsu in Atlanta. So that's pretty much what happened, you know. So then after I spent some time right there helping him build that school, I moved back to Brazil again. A lot of back and forth, you know. Moved back to Brazil again, and that's when I decided to to come back to college for the exercise science and back to the study. That's when I started studying again. And as soon as I finished my college, I was helping at the school in Panama, Jacaré School in Panama, running a few classes at the school, and he invited me. After I spent some time in Brazil, and after I finished my legal study, I thought about move back, you know, to the States. And a friend of mine who was the Mauricio Villardo, who was the one who told me about Tallahassee.
Okay.
You know, was one of his students. One of his students was a blue belt, a police officer, a blue belt from Tallahassee. Moved moved back to Tallahassee and was seeking a jiu-jitsu instructor. And he was asking Mauricio, my friend, to if you don't want to come to teach over here and everything, but he has his life already set up right there with the family, his successful school. So he didn't want to, you know, he didn't want to give up. So he was the one who told me, you know, Felipe, do you want to go over there, you know? So I have a friend of mine who's a blue belt police officer. He he's seeking for a jiu-jitsu instructor. I can go. So I think Tallahassee is a great opportunity. And like I said again, I didn't know anything about Tallahassee. Okay, cool. But then back at then was the Nextel. Remember the Nextel thing, the radio,
Hmm.
the radio Nextel was an Nextel era where I used to
Yeah.
have the radio. You know
Yeah.
what I
The
mean?
little flip phone.
Flip phone. Yeah.
Real
Nextel
early
radio.
stuff.
So
Nextel. Yeah.
yeah, so he invited me to come over here. So I came, you know, so I came over here to teach a class. Was pretty much three blue belts in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
It was him, Jeff Cruz, was the Kirby, Michael Kirby, the guy who used to run a tiny little dojo place behind the street, the Tallahassee Mall,
Hmm.
when I started. And was a guy, a Royce Grace student named KC. So it was like three blue belts, and all the guys that are training was white belts, you know, most police officers.
Hmm.
So I came to teach a class to those guys. They pretty much love it. They want to keep me here. Man, Felipe, you gotta stay, you gotta stay. This place is good for you. It's right for there's nobody teaching jiu-jitsu over here. So, and then they show me around, you know what I mean? Try to convince me to stay, but I was living in Brazil back then. No, I have to come back and let's see. We keep talking, you know, maybe. So they show me the capital, they show me, the FSU, the campus, like, but where's the beach?
Yeah.
Like, where's the beach?
About 2 hours that way.
About 2 hours. I mean, and then I was like, where's the board? There is any boardwalk where people, can walk skateboarding, I was like thinking for that kind of thing,
Yeah.
biking and everything, any park. Oh yeah, I got plenty of parks and everything. Like, yeah. But I always like, since been living in the big cities for my entire life, Rio, San Diego, in California, Atlanta. So I was used to see a lot of activities, a lot of people,
Yeah.
So,
So being a small town like Tallahassee was, so I was around then too, and there was no jujitsu in Tallahassee, or really there wasn't really any in North Florida. Like I don't think anything in Panama City or Jacksonville, or if there was, they weren't well known. So what steps did you have to do to kind of build awareness of the sport and the style in the area? Because it it's one thing, you open a karate school, everyone's watched Karate Kid, everyone knows what karate is, but in that era, not many people knew what jujitsu was. So you kind of had to teach not just the sport, but what it was to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, not in the Southeast, but in California, on the West Coast, the Jiu-Jitsu was very well developed already. So, but over here in the Southeast, we had schools in Jacksonville.
You were?
Yeah, I had Luis Palhares, a friend of mine who's been on the game forever, was like actually my professional training partner. So to see, so he was already in Jacksonville. As you said, Panama City, I mean, all the Panhandle area, there was nothing for sure. The Panhandle was nothing. So I can say that I was the first one to be even start developing the jiu-jitsu. And like answering your question, I was like building like a masterpiece from scratch, and I did everything that I could think of it to put the word out. I mean, you name it. I mean, flyers. I mean, going to FSU campus to do demonstration, going to schools, going to going everywhere I could handle flyer, talking to people, introducing myself, Have you heard about Jiu-Jitsu, what it is? And of course, nobody knew it. So grappling, trying to educate people, Along with that, of course, being here, being in my place for my students every day, being there for them, not missing one single class. I remember Larry Folsom, Larry Folsom was my first student in the morning class. Was me and Larry for the first year. Pretty much only me and Larry training. Then after, when I opened the morning class, So then all the people start coming, showing up, and the thing was growing. And what I think what really made me grow the right way toward the right direction is not only the fact that I was doing everything, I put all my my blood, sweat, and tears on these. When I thought like, okay, if I'm gonna stay here, if this is the place that I wanna be in the next at least 10, 15 years, I'm gonna make this right. I'm gonna give everything I have. So, like I said, I was there for my student every day, putting the words out, and being there for my students. And as my students start getting good in jiu-jitsu, as they start learning, they had like my first like a blue belt, group. I start putting them to compete, take them to Atlanta to compete, take them to Atlanta to my jiu-jitsu instructor school, where the school that I built to train as well. What made them like, start having different training, and some of them start doing really good in jiu-jitsu and competition, and that's when things start growing, and as the classes start growing, those guys was bringing other guys, other people. So with the word of mouth, the hard work that I put together, being there every day, and I was reinvesting in the school. So when I started Sky, people see this beautiful school right here, but I started in a tiny little place like you guys started back in the day, right? At the MMA club. Same thing, When I first started, it was a puzzle mat, like tiny little, less than 1,000 square footage. The puzzle used to the puzzle mats used to open. I had to tape it. Once one of the guys were training and they bump on the wall, open a huge hole that I had to put like some sort of board to. And then as the program start growing, then okay, then I bought a decent mats. And then the lady who was next to me decided to give up. It was a hair salon next to me. So, and then she's like, hey, you growing. I see there are more parking lots every month over here in your place. I'm moving, So do you want to take my place? Yeah, I'll take a spot. So then we expand, we knock the wall, we expand the school. Then instead of a 1,000 square foot, I have 2,000
Yeah.
square feet. And once again, reinvesting, always being there doing the right thing,
Yeah.
And
Well,
and and,
1,000
and, and
feet's
another
tight. That's 1,000 feet is tight for a school. That's a small.
1,000.
Yeah,
It was
that's
actually
a
it
lot.
was less than 1,000 feet.
Oof.
It was 1,000 feet with a restroom,
Yeah.
with a bathroom. So mat space was like 700
Oof.
because I need to have like a little strip for people to walk in and sit
Yeah.
down. So it was like what I mean, like half of the side of my second mat right there.
Yeah. How many students did you have then? How many students do you think you had around that time?
I start with what? With 3 blue belts and about 7 white belts. About 10 guys.
Yeah.
I started with 10 guys, you know what I mean? That was willing to learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. More of a club at that time.
Yeah. I started with 10 guys. And those guys, they started bringing their family, So my first jiu-jitsu, my first kids was a KC son. Then he brought like, man, teach my son to, okay, so start one child and the other one. Then I remember I had another family, Wes and Sawan, who was right in the first group. They bring her daughter, and then the Warmark family, who was into martial art, from the Trans Am. The Walmart family, Todd, who became a good friend of mine, brought Ben as a child.
Yeah.
Ben, so, yeah, it was
my butt now.
5. I have a picture of Ben, you know what I mean, with a yellow belt, as a child. So then, now he's one of my top fighters here, you know what I mean, by the way,
Yeah. So did you notice, so early 2000s, the UFC wasn't real big. As it grew, did you start to notice more people coming in from an MMA perspective, more people coming in that kind of were watching that on TV? Did it make it a little easier to get people to understand the concept of ground fighting and stuff? Before that, people thought of fighting as either boxing or karate, and then grappling was just wrestling in America. That was kind of around here. Did you find that helpful, or?
Yeah, for sure. What really happened, was like first we didn't. It was like after the boom with the explosion of the UFC with the Royce Gracie, it was a revolution of martial art industry. And the main reason is something that most of people don't know. The main reason karate, taekwondo, and all the striking arts was very popular in the United States and the world is because of the Bruce Lee movies. The Bruce Lee movies actually, and he was like a hell of a martial artist.
Yeah.
Was a really made the karate and that industry blow. So everybody want to be like Bruce Lee, So the grappling art, the jiu-jitsu, and that's the idea that the Horton Grace had it. I need to prove to the world that Brazilian jiu-jitsu is one of the best grappling art there is. And that's why he immigrated to the United States to put that show together, inviting the best fighters, you know what I mean, to face each other in a cage without weight and time limit. And they proved their point.
Yeah.
That the grappling art was like the jiu-jitsu was, one of the most effective, martial arts back then at that time, you know what I mean? Proving to being everybody. So with that said, in order for you to survive in a real fight, we need to know this stuff, you need to know jiu-jitsu, So then a lot of water under the bridge, they sold the show, it became, the no rules bar. I mean, it was no rules bar.
Yeah, there was no
rules bar event. It wasn't like MMA event. The mixed martial art was afterwards.
Yeah.
Was no rules bar, So when people start cross training and they realize that they need to know jiu-jitsu in order to survive with the back on the mats, I mean, everybody starts seeking, for the jiu-jitsu. And that's one of the explosion of the jiu-jitsu after the 90s. That's why a lot of guys like me, who was born in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and the Mecca of jiu-jitsu, migrate to the States and to other part of the world, because like everybody want to know jiu-jitsu. And the funny thing is like about these, like when I first started in the late 80s, nobody knew that this would happen. Sometimes it blows my mind to think that, we couldn't, at least, I couldn't never imagine that the jiu-jitsu would take over the world, know? So, and that's one of the things that happened with us Brazilian that was, was born in Rio specifically because the Grace family, was from Rio, was from the north of the country, but then immigrated early, 1930s, 40s. So everybody that was training and development then, had this opportunity, to teach jiu-jitsu and live move to seek for a better opportunity. Because in Brazil, like when I started, it was like schools, you know what I mean? Like had a lot more opportunity out of the country.
Yeah, better money in it and all that. Let me see here. Did you really find yourself having to? Because I know there was a period where you were putting some MMA fighters out in competition here, local scene, thing like that. Did you find yourself really adjusting your teaching style to that at that time, or did you just kind of keep doing what you'd been doing? What was your thoughts when you had fighters start moving into that world?
Yeah. So when you talk about MMA, over here at my place, honestly, I never seek for MMA fighters. I never opened a school and with a desire to make fighters to fight MMA or anything. So when Brandon Riles, a good friend, start teaching with me when I met him and we put the program together, was for my students. We had this extra striking program and everything. But the guys, the people who start who start participating in the MMA event, and it was pretty much everything aligned at the same time. It was pretty much when Mitchell stopped putting the combat night with John Zaman. It was my guys pretty much were starting getting good in striking with Brandon and getting good in the jiu-jitsu, competing jiu-jitsu. And that's when pretty much everything, thinking better now, that's how pretty much everything started happening at the same time. So to name a few, like I have a Robert Nielsen, who was a good blue belt, who was competing everywhere, who was really into jiu-jitsu. I had another guy, Kyle. I had Kayla. Kayla was a beast, remember Kayla? She was extremely strong, very flexible, very talented, And
he definitely could have gone to
And she was competing in jiu-jitsu and everything, training with Brandon. And then along came with the combat night, with Mitchell putting together with Josh and everything. Like, okay, then Brandon Felipe, let's put those guys to fight, to compete. They're gonna be doing good, And then we start pushing, my guys, you know what I mean, to do the MMA, but I never seek for fighters and everything. So my thing personally was always jiu-jitsu with the gi. That was my passion, teaching jiu-jitsu with the gi. So that's pretty much how how things. Then with their victory, a few other people start flowing in to learn jiu-jitsu from me. Oh, they have a good. But what they didn't know, most of them, that they're the main core, the main program was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brandon was a really good striking coach, So
Brandon's a great striker.
I have a lot to thank to Brandon, So he was working with me over here for about 10 years. And he was the one pretty much running the MMA program, doing everything on that aspect, The only agreement that I had to him after I saw that all the people want to start competing and being into MMA, I'm like, okay, Brandon, what are we going to do? We're going to make sure that at least whoever wants to compete is going to be at least competing in 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments, and at least 2 boxing fights. Because, we want to make sure we keep doing good. You know what I mean? So that's what we do. And then he was mainly teaching striking and everything in jiu-jitsu. And then in order for my guys to compete, I want to make sure that I have at least 2 to 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments. With 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments, 1 jiu-jitsu tournament, you have 2 to 3 fights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So with 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments, we talk about the individual has about 10 fights on his, you know what I mean, his experience. And then plus 2 boxing matches, you know what I mean? We talk about a dozen fight.
Yeah, and it's easy to be that guy in the gym that's really good, but you never know how someone's going to react to the pressure and all that. So it's good to give them those lead up examples before they have to walk with all the lights and smoke and cage and friends
Correct.
and all
Correct.
that. That's a smart thing.
So that's what my thought was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I make my guys over here, you know, have some experience in jiu-jitsu, some boxing fight, I'm pretty sure they're gonna be doing good. I'm confident that for the first fight in MMA, you know, they're gonna be at least doing good. You know,
Yeah, they'll at least look like they know what they're doing.
they know. Yeah, that's always was my thought. You know, so that's why, you know, I thought I had like some good turnout in MMA scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In
your
the
people
area,
always look
you know?
good. Yeah, all your people always look good when they're
Yeah. But the important thing to do, like, you know, we had a cage, we had a program, but our place right here always been a jiu-jitsu place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not an MMA place, always a jiu-jitsu place, you know.
Yeah.
But Brandon did a really good job running that program. Then afterwards, you know, then recently he tried to pursue another career and everything. So now I have other guys teaching the program, but he was the one who was pretty much, you know,
in charge of it.
Help a lot on that.
Okay. So I like to kind of do this last thing. Always ask my guest one crazy story, that one crazy situation, you know, be it a one-time thing or something that lasted, like just that one thing that really stands out in your time here in Tallahassee or really in training in general.
Tallahassee over here, I don't have much crazy story. I have a lot of crazy stories back in Brazil, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta, I have many, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it was like in the 90s, it was still like the Grace era challenge.
Yeah.
When it was still people in the 90s, we still had people showing up in the school to check things out.
Yeah.
You know, some tough guys, you know what I mean, want to test themselves, you know. So I faced like a few situations like that, you know, that the guy showing up, you know, try to test themselves and then turn to be, you know, I mean, you know, become a student afterwards.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I was like that. Another funny story that I had one guy, man, this is hilarious. You know, one of the craziest things that ever happened with me. You know, I had one blue belt students in Atlanta, and his name is Ali, and he became my funny guy, my friend and everything right in the first month, and I was seeking to buy an automobile car, you know, and I'm gonna hook you up, you know, I'm gonna hook you up. I have a friend of mine, we're gonna take you there. You know, okay, all right, man, that'll be good if you come fixing to buy an automobile and everything. So then he picked me up at the place that I was living back then, Atlanta, you know, to go buy the car, see the car. And along the way, he stopped at a Waffle House, this guy. Waffle House.
A lot of good stories start at Waffle House.
He stopped in a Waffle House right in front of, hey, Felipe, I'm going to go in here, inside this place. Can you keep just looking at me, watching me? Or like, yeah, okay. What? No, just hang in here. Just keep looking at me. I'm going to take care of some business right before I head out. He didn't tell me what he was doing. It turned that he's being a manager of that restaurant, you know, like a few months ago, I don't know when. And there was a customer that I was speak on him. And since he had me on the car, he wanted to go there and fight the guy and didn't even tell me. So what really happened afterward, and I look at him, then I saw this guy, you know, huge guy. He looked like Tank Abbott. You know what I mean? Like Tank Abbott story, like big strong, you know what I mean?
Crazy red.
Man, next thing I see, he was heading locked this kid, you know, bouncing his head on a jukebox and like beating the crap out of him. Like, man, I have to jump out of the car, save him for the fight, and then turn the entire Waffle House to fighting me. And this guy was like, man, it was like the one of the craziest thing ever that happened to me, you know. I end up breaking the fight, you know what I mean? Fighting people, even customers, get in the car and run away from the place, you know. But that story right there, my friend, you know, I'll never forget. I almost killed him afterwards.
Oh, I bet.
I almost killed him afterwards, you know what I mean?
To fight a whole Waffle House.
Waffle House, I always bring good memories.
Yeah.
I had my own Waffle House, you know.
Yeah. So. You might be one of only 5 people in history to fight an entire Waffle House and walk away alive.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
That can't be too many people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and doing this with us, Felipe. This has been a great interview. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sitting with us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you enjoyed the interview, like and follow. If you're interested in learning jiu-jitsu, what's your Instagram or website or anything like that?
www. ZicoBJJ.com or Alliance Tallahassee.
Yeah. So definitely look them up and drop us a like, drop us a follow. If you got any questions, put them in the comments and we will try and get them to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. What do you think?
Great.
You think it was good?
Yeah, it's
Did I
perfect.
fucking mumble too much?
No. I can understand you
I
perfectly.
got lost.